I'd like to share with you a lapbook I made based on a YouTube series by Nik the Booksmith, in which she describes how to make such a book. So I took an old book that I found at a secondhand store, gutted the inside of it so I'd have room, found another old book, cut off the front and the back, bound it to the gutted other book, so this could be the basis for the lapbook. And a lapbook is a place where you put a lot of things that you want to explore. The things I wanted to put in this lapbook were from my mother in the 1920s and early 30s. And she had saved a lot of things, but you know how it is, they just get thrown in boxes and then you never look at them. So I thought, perfect, the lapbook will be a place for them. So a lapbook has a lot of different little pockets and places to put your memorabilia. In here, like this little envelope, for instance, it has a picture of my dad. Most of the pictures in this, in fact, all in this lapbook, are taken with a Brownie camera in the 1920s or early 1930s. And then as a place to put those pictures, I made little tags. There's my mom, again in her 20s. And again, I think it's a great place to save your things rather than just throwing them in an old box like these were, because they never get looked at and enjoyed. Here we have another tuck spot. There's a postcard here. They would cut up these little stickers. These are all on the Lord's Prayer. And then they would use them for your Sunday school attendance. You'd get a sticker every time you went to Sunday school. Here I saved an old telegraph that my mom had saved. This is from my dad in 1935, when my mother went back to Europe just to visit her relatives who had stayed there. And my dad was so afraid she wouldn't return. And so he sent this telegram: "Please be home in August. I am sick and weary. For your love, Eddie." And it says it was $5, which I looked up. Today would be $98 and change. This is 1935, in the midst of the Depression. How my father ever saved that much money digging ditches, I will never know. A testimony to my mother's love. This is a little envelope spot, again, places to put things. These are little cards my mother received at her wedding shower. More tuck spots, a place for a postcard. I used a lot of these illustrations. They're called scraps. And my mother had a whole wooden box of them that she brought from Germany and gave to me when I was about 9 years old, and I always loved them. In that last tuck spot is a beautiful little note my mother sent my brother when I was just 3 days old. She was in the hospital with me. He was 3. She wanted him to know how much she missed him and that she was sure he would love his little sister when she brought her home, which he did. And again, little tuck spots. I glued these on cardstock and then zigzagged around them and then stamped the backs. Again, just a way to save them because they're so lovely. In this section, we have my mother's citizenship folder that she saved when she became a naturalized citizen. Inside of it, there's a flag, and then all of these statements on how to care for the flag, the meaning of the flag, how to treat it with reverence. And then I made this little place for it on an old map of Europe, signifying where she came from. And then this opens up more tuck spots, a place for an old Valentine, another little pocket, which I made from an old library pocket, which I decorated again with the scraps. And in this little envelope is a Sunday school attendance record. And this has, as I was indicating, these stickers that they got when they went to Sunday school, and it showed their attendance. So my mother had saved it all of these years. I tucked that in here. I made a little pouch here for my mom's naturalization papers, the stamp from that era, 2 cents worth, and an old German postcard with a beautiful poem on it. Again, the Lapbook just keeps opening and opening. Here is my mom and dad before they were married. This is my mom a little later. I used the old scraps, the lovebirds, for them. Made a little tuck spot for those as well. I stamped Walk in Beauty and Passion on the back because my mother was a beautician. These are old postcards from Germany that were sent to my mother by her grandmother. And they just have the sweetest pictures on them, I think. Again, more of the scraps here. Another 2 cent stamp, an old postcard. And these are old report cards of my mom when she came from Germany. Because she didn't know English, they put her back. She was supposed to be in 10th grade. She was 14. And they put her back in 6th grade because she didn't know English. Well, she learned English quickly. And so when she was 16, she quit school because who wants to be in junior high at that age? And she went to hairdressing school when she was 16. And this is her best friend she met there, Lee McQueen. She became my godmother, and she was my mom's good friend all of their life then. So I made a little tie down for this section because it keeps unfolding as well. Another Sunday school sticker, an old beautiful silhouette with a Bible verse on the back. And this wonderful picture of my mom and dad, made a little window pocket for it. I used this picture, it was one before they were married, for their 50th wedding anniversary invitation, which I then stuck in here because I don't have the original picture anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I put it on an old piece of poetry I found, If Thou Wert Mine. And of course, she did become his. This little envelope has a 1 cent stamp on it from that era. And it contains a marvelous little piece that my dad typed up. He must have been 17 or 18 at the time. And what it does is it tells the story of their meeting when they were 14 on the playground, and how my father fell in love with her instantly. But there was this other boy interested in her, and my dad thought, oh, I'll never have a chance with her. But what happened? My mother told him that boy meant nothing. And this little synopsis says she finally agreed to go walking with him. So I think they were probably 17 or 18 at the time he wrote that. And indeed, at the end, he says, there's nothing as great as being loved and being in love. And he was sure they would spend the rest of their life together, which of course they did. And here's my mom and dad's wedding photo. They were 23 then, so that was a few years later than that little synopsis my dad wrote. And we have another picture, my mother's wedding picture. This is the invitation to their wedding, the original one, in an envelope she saved. She was quite the saver, my mother. In fact, you will see that she saved not only stuff, but money. Here we have her bank book from 1930. And it's so interesting because, of course, that was the Great Depression. But every single week, she's putting money away, carefully saving. And then a few more tuck spots for other pictures of my mom. Again, If you have things in an old box, you're not going to look at them. But a book makes it kind of nice to explore. I loved these little mysterious photos my dad took of him and my mom. I don't know if you can see that. And then this lovely one of them on the rocks overlooking an ocean. Again, before they were married, and sweet to have them. And we have a final section here. Again, have some tags with photos on them. My mom playing croquet, and then another one of her posing for my dad. He loved to take photos of her. This is a photo of my mom and my aunt when they went back to Germany and then on the beach. And finally, I made a tag with a photo of one of my mother's beauty booths because she was a beautician and she bought her first shop when she was 21 and did hair all the way until she died when she was 80. And then a final picture of her knitting. She was a beautiful knitter and she could do these fancy sweaters and crochet too without any patterns. Finally, a couple more postcards from Germany with beautiful scenes on them. All of these vintage items. And finally, 2 stickers here that I loved, more of those scraps. I don't think I showed you this. You see how a Lapbook works? It keeps opening and opening, and you keep exploring and exploring. We'll start here. This is my grandma when she was getting engaged in Germany. Beautiful photo. Another tuck spot for her final picture of her when she was 59 and she died that year. There she is. It says 59 Jahre, years in Germany there. And by that time, though they had been bakers, they wound up because of the Depression having to be tenant farmers. And here's my grandpa among the chickens and my grandmother and uncle and grandpa on the farm that they had an egg route and a milk route during the Depression. And this old folder that I love, I put another scrap on that, and my mother, her sister, her brother in Germany, and a picture of my mom when she was 3. Finally, I made a little pouch for this book, which I absolutely have loved since I was a little girl and my mother showed it to me. They were called poesy books. And this one had a leather cover that was embossed, but it was too thick with that cover to go in here. So I just took it out and rebound it here and stamped poesy on a tea bag there. And a poesy book was, we would call it like a friendship book, where your friends wrote endearments to you or phrases or poems or best wishes. And then they put these things called scraps, which are so beautiful, next to them. And look at the beautiful German script that these young people learned. So these were from 1924 to 27. My mother would have been 11 then to 14. And 27 was when they came over. So some of these were from 1927. I'm sure they're best wishes for my mother traveling to the United States for her life. And I've just always loved this little booklet. And how nice to know your mother had so many friends when she was a young one. So beautiful, ending with a beautiful angel. So that's my Lapbook, a wonderful place to keep memorabilia instead of old boxes that I never opened. and a place to enjoy things that are important to you. Perhaps you'll feel like making one of your own.